How's it going, everybody? It's Young here, and welcome to day 47 of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. Before you proceed, I highly recommend you check out day 48, in which I discuss new information that we learned about some of Versus 13's key characters, like the fact that the protagonist is a prince, or that the blonde female character is a heroine, as well as new hints on entities like the Goddess of Death. In this video, I'll be discussing Versus 13's TGS 2008 trailer, which was once again shown behind closed doors, with articles later describing what they saw during Square Enix's presentation. A little over a month after August 31st, 2008, which was when Gematsu released an article translating an interview that Tetsuya Nomura did with Dengeki PlayStation, through which he teased what we would see during Tokyo Game Show 2008. On October 9th, 2008, the aforementioned event would begin, and on that very same date, GameSpot released an article detailing the brand new Versus 13 trailer that they saw inside Square Enix's exclusive Mega Theater. GameSpot described the trailer as follows. As with last year's TGS trailer, this one begins with the words, "This is a fantasy based on reality." Then the camera locks onto a futuristic car zooming across a rural wasteland. We see a figure in leather reclining in the back seat, and we believe him to be Noctis, the known star of the game. Then we see another quote attributed to Shakespeare, "There is nothing neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so." We then cut away to an entirely different scene. Here, a woman in white speaks with a chairman we saw in previous trailers. They are in a boardroom and engage in a heated discussion. An enormous painting looms over them as they approach. We cut away again to the speeding vehicle. The car crosses a bleak landscape where fallen telephone poles litter the view. A combat montage follows these scenes. There is a rush of acrobatic moves, spiked hair, and the rush of high speeds as the car zooms ahead. Then the car stops and Noctis emerges with his friends. They look into the horizon and we can see that the road ahead is flooded. The next montage shows scenes we saw at last year's TGS, in which the boys get friendly, putting each other in headlocks and laughing as old friends do. A moment later, they gaze upon a tall building in the distance, which looks impressive but oddly lonely, considering the emptiness of the world we have seen up to this point. Then we see a beautiful figure. It is Stella, the other known named character in Final Fantasy Versus 13. She locks eyes with Noctis, and the two unsheathe their weapons to prepare for a fight. But before the fireworks can begin, we return to the boardroom, where the suited man and his companion in white continue their conversation, all in Japanese, of course. In the background, fish swim back and forth in a towering aquarium, with the ripples of water causing the light to dance on the figures in the foreground. The teaser ended with a reminder that Final Fantasy Versus 13 will be coming only to the PlayStation 3. We weren't given a release date or even a hint as to when it might be released. Most of what they described here had already been shown in past behind closed doors trailers, but the article also talked about a new scene involving the protagonist and a blonde woman meeting inside some type of boardroom interior. At this point in time, the only context we had for this scene was screenshots from Famitsu's August 2008 magazine issue, which showcases the prince and the heroine meeting inside a room residing on a high floor of a fancy skyscraper. Despite the vague description of the scene, the article did give us two major revelations, Noctis and Stella. For the first time, we learned the names of the prince protagonist and the blonde heroine. 2 days later, on October 11th, 2008, website Kotaku released an article dedicated to the revelation of the protagonist's name. The article began by stating how the new Versus 13 trailer featured at least one scene rendered in the PS3 in real time, referring to the one where the main hero Prince Noctis meets blonde-haired heroine Stella. Then the article pointed out that the main character uses a shortened nickname for his moniker, which means of the night. Here's a direct quote from Nomura. His name is Noctis, but in-game, he's typically called Noct. In the scene in the promo trailer, Stella calls him by his full name. An even more detailed description of the real-time scene can be found on NeoGAF, a day after Kotaku published their article. On October 12, 2008, NeoGAF user Gigi Dasu posted the following thread describing everything they saw behind closed doors inside Square Enix's Mega Theater, including the Versus 13 presentation. The user began by providing a summary of the footage that they saw, which reads as follows. Trailer opens with a car scene in the tunnel and radio talking about the end of a Cold War. Seems a little bit extended. Show some road signs with names Invictus and Nilithium or something like that. car exits a tunnel and we see airships looming over in the distance. Shakespeare message appears and camera cuts to a new in-game footage. Camera shows a staircase. We see the princess' feet climbing the staircase. Detailed shoes. I want some. Camera moves up and shows the prince in his glory. He looks a bit antisocial. He notices Stella looking at the painting of the goddess and she notices he's around. She asks him if he's seen something earlier. She has also seen it, she states. She questions him if that is the light. She approaches him quite quickly and he seems a little timid. He turns his back and moves to walk away, muttering, "It's better not to talk about that." She catches up and does the cute Japanese 1 foot, hands behind back spin motion and questions him if that, dialogue below, is indeed the words of the scholars at a place called Tenebrera. As a side note, we know now that it's actually Tenebrae, but that's the best translation we had at the time. He tells Stella it's probably the same here also. By the way, the animation and detail to expression is very impressive. I find that Final Fantasy Versus 13 seems to have a little graphical edge over 13 right now. It's truly amazing. I want to see it once more. After a little more chatter, Noctis slumps down onto a chair and we see some more of the room while they talk about this power from light. There's an aquarium in the center of the room. Noctis excuses himself that he must be leaving soon, and the two depart after Stella introduces herself and invites him to her city or country, Tenebrera. Again, that's Tenebrae. Noctis tells her he'll consider it, and she leaves rather quickly. Noctis looks up and a voice asks him, "Who are you?" He mutters back, "That's my line," and he shrugs it off, walking away. The rest of the footage was old FMV stuff from TGS 2007 and Jump Festa. That's it for the summary, and below that, the user provided a full English transcript of the Japanese dialogue exchanged between Noctis and Stella, all of which was spoken through silent dialogue with subtitles, since at the time Square Enix hadn't cast any of the game's characters yet. So here's the full transcript of their full dialogue, translated by Gigi Dasu. Stella, Lord Noctis can see the light also, right? I also can see it. Some time ago downstairs, that thing we saw, that was the light, wasn't it? It's said in Tenebrae that when the goddess Etro opens the gate connected between the deceased country, light is seldom seen. However, if seen, the said person will be awarded some kind of power. Noctis, that's the same deal here, it seems. Stella, Lord Noctis was gifted with said power? Noctis, it's rather better not to talk about those things. It's different from person to person, but one way or another it will bring about trouble. Noctis walks away a bit and slumps onto a chair. Stella, the light, what do you think it really is? Noctis, it's always there, am I not right? Suggesting he doesn't know who she is right now. Stella, I'm Stella. Noctis, Stella, I'll have to be leaving soon. Stella, I'm sorry for holding you up, Lord Noctis. Noctis, just Noct is fine. Stella, I'll also be leaving. Today I feel that I also received that so-called power. I was able to talk to you. If it's good for you, next time please come to Tenebrae. I'll show you around. Noct, that seems good. I'll give it some thought. Stella leaves. Noct raises his head towards a sound coming. Who are you? Noct, that's my line. And scene. So yeah, at the time this was a lot of new information to chew on. We finally learned the names of the male lead, aka the prince, who goes by Noctis or Noct, and the blonde heroine, who goes by Stella. We also learned the name of her country, Tenebrae, then thought to be Tenebrera, as well as the name of the goddess of death, who Stella called Etro, who can be seen depicted in the painting that Stella was looking at prior to Noctis' arrival. Noctis and Stella also discuss some kind of power that comes from the light, a power that apparently they both have, which seems to suggest that their powers were somehow related to each other. This might explain the similarities in the way they summon their weapons, while similar magical symbols hover behind them, as can be seen in these two screenshots that had already been made public at this point in time. But as we know now, Stella's character was eventually scrapped, and we have learned that Noctis' power actually emanates from the Ring of the Luci, which houses the collected power of his ancestors. But back then, many just assumed that Noctis and Stella's powers were related and originated from the same source, this light. One last bit of information to make note of is that according to the NeoGAF post, towards the beginning of the trailer, while Noctis was riding in the backseat of his car, the radio talked about the end of a Cold War. This served as a big hint for the kinds of conflicts permeating throughout the world of Versus 13, which remained even after the game was inevitably renamed to 15. and thus wraps up all of the new information we got from Square Enix's TGS 2008 trailer. And with that, I would like to end today's episode of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below any memories this information might have sparked from back then. And to be further updated on all things Final Fantasy, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!